5-2. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Most voting is 5-2. 5-2 is the best we can do. 5-2 is the best we can do. 5-2 is the best we can do, no matter who is in charge. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? The manager must do as he's told. The manager must accept the direction. The manager must accept the direction. The manager must accept the direction. Not good with a leadership change. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? The manager is then replaced. Another manager, more of the same. Another manager, more of the same. Another manager, more of the same. Happens over and over again. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Maybe it's time for a change. Perhaps we need another town government. Perhaps we need another town government. Perhaps we need another town government to give us a chance to improve. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? The mayor must run for the office. The mayor must be elected by a majority. Mayor must be elected by a majority. Mayor must be elected by a majority. He then has a chance to succeed. Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? We now have a leadership choice. Read the 5 questions and make a decision. Now read the 5 questions and make a decision. Now read the 5 questions and make a decision and vote on November 4th.
Well, that was 5-2. Very familiar in this town. Number in this town, 5-2. Tonight, on the agenda, we're going to talk quickly. I'm going to kind of skip any comments tonight because we're in a big hurry, but we're going to talk about the Finance Board and its role in if the questions number 1 is passed at the election on November 4th. So this will be talking about what will happen in Winsted, and then as an example, I'm going to run a video for it's actually about 41 minutes of the meeting in Torrington. The Finance Board meeting in Torrington that we took a couple weeks ago. Steve Sylvester did most of the work. I thank him for that. And then there'll be just another little song at the end. And then I'll see you again next week when I'm going to start to do some of my interviewing that I've been doing and showing those on this program. And all to do with the mayoral form of government. First of all, the Board of Finance, as it will be, should the question pass, the members must be residents and electors of the town of Winchester. There will be 4 Finance Board members. They are elected. In Torrington, they are appointed, and there are 6 Finance Board members in Torrington. So there are differences between the Torrington mayoral form of government and our proposed form of government. There is no compensation for the Finance Board members. 3 members are a quorum for conducting business, if we should end up having a finance board in a mayoral form of government. Members elect a clerk, or the mayor will choose them from the Board of Finance membership. At the first election in 2009, 2 members of the Finance Board will be elected to 2-year terms, and 2 members of the Finance Board will be elected to 4-year terms. And then elections thereafter, 2 members are elected every future election to succeed those whose terms expire. So we have a staggered form of electing there. Every election, 2 of the 4 will be elected, so that there's always 2 with 2 years experience at any given time. The Board of Finance authority is prescribed by the Charter and state statutes. The mayor presides at all meetings with a vote in case of a tie. And this is the only one area where the mayor can get involved in policy. If there's a tie on a policy issue and he gets to vote because it is a tie, then he could influence that particular policy that's being voted on. Any expenditure that requires town meeting approval, and remember this mayoral form that we have up here in Winsted will still maintain a town meeting and a town referendum, but any expenditure that requires town meeting approval may be approved by the majority vote of the Board of Finance. If the Board of Finance has not recommended approval, a vote of 2/3 shall be required by the voters. Board of Finance approval is needed for budget transfers within departments above $5,000. The Board of Finance must approve additional appropriations over and above the total budget if a resolution is made by the Board of Selectmen upon recommendation by the mayor after review by the Board of Finance and certification by the Director of Finance. The Board of Finance must hold at least 2 or more public hearings on the budget. At least 1 must be devoted to the Board of Education. The Board of Finance recommends the budget to the annual town budget meeting after publishing the budget in a prescribed manner. The Board of Finance, with the mayor, presents the mill rate at the annual town meeting. So that's kind of what our people are going to do in our finance board. And I think one of the advantages to having an elected finance board is that you may get people with better accounting backgrounds, and they will concentrate only on the management of the money. And you'll see a bit of that in the Torrington Finance Board video that I'll be showing here in a few more minutes. And you know, there's no reason why all the people on the finance board, when elected, shouldn't have accounting backgrounds, shouldn't be accountants. They can be certified public accountants. They can be people who really understand all this area. And that means that the selectmen don't have to worry too much about that. They still have to approve major expenses, but they can concentrate more on the policy for the town, which is mainly the ordinances. The other thing I'd like to point out now is that I did go to the referendum, not the referendum, the town budget meeting, and no changes were made to the budget. Okay, I did go, as I mentioned, to the town referendum, budget meeting on the budget, and the town referendum will be on Saturday, October 25th, 2008, at the Pearson School between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There was one attempt at the town meeting to cut the budget, school budget by about $550 or so $1,000. That's not the exact number, but it's in that area. And that was defeated by a pretty solid margin. There were about 100 people at that referendum. So now I'm going to introduce you to the tape that we're going to be playing, and that was taken in Torrington about a week or more ago, and it's the Torrington Finance Board meeting, appointed finance boards, chaired by Mayor Bingham, who has a vote in case of a tie.
open the Board of Finance Tuesday, September 16th, 2008. It's now 5:05 p.m. Sorry for the 5-minute delay. From the Councilor Chambers, one vote to accept the minutes of the regular meeting held August 27th, 2008.
So moved.
Mrs. Teskey.
Second.
Mr. Farley, is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstained.
One abstention, Mr. Zeller. 2, vote to open the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Scoville, second by Mrs. Traub. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak? Hearing and seeing none. All right, 3, vote to authorize the modification of 2007-2008 budget as follows. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second. Second by Mr. Scoville. Discussion. Mrs. Traub.
I thought there would be somebody here to answer questions. There is no one here. I did have email conversation with the budget chair. I had some concerns regarding the capital projects transfers money to try to, because they're so low this year, tried to find out what happened with the transfers and why they happened. I also had concerns about the fact that in their letter, the letter that was received by us originally had not even been looked at by the board. And Frank Rubino, who's the budget committee chair, did assure me that at their budget committee meeting last Wednesday, they did discuss the letter and that the budget committee has tentatively approved the letter. The Board of Ed has not approved it. I don't know if in prior that was the protocol. With the Board of Ed, seeing as it's the Board of Ed's budget, because they're asking for an amended budget, the Board of Ed is supposed to come forward with the recommendation. I don't know, but the budget committee has approved what's here. So at least, if anybody wants to know from that standpoint, at least I know the budget committee itself has recommended that amount for approval to be requested. The Board of Ed does not meet till tomorrow night, so I don't know what's going to happen there. The other concern I did have, and this is not a concern, obviously the state statute does say that any additional revenue that comes in for out of district obviously goes to the Board of Ed to be used to offset their additional expenditures. I have no problem with that, and so as far as having the additional funds requested, that's fine. My concern stems from the fact that they were able to find, and my numbers are very vague, they were able to find almost $800,000 in their budget to offset their $1.2 million overage, 1.1 million. They received the $250,000 from us in the contingency, and they're only asking for, $26,000. So the concern I have going forward is if the entire amount, which was I believe $570,000, was available to them, my concern is what did the Board of Ed not get for the $800,000 that they did not spend? This is supposed to be a lean budget every year. It's supposed to be a bare bones budget, yet we found $300,000 in economies in staff alone. So my concern is either the Board of Ed is not getting staff or services that they do need, which would be a concern to me because that $570,000 is available to them. And maybe going forward, what I'd like to do is have a conversation with them about coming up with a process so that the Board of Ed does know that that money is available to them and that perhaps earlier in the year they are comfortable knowing that they can receive that money, just so that they don't. They did not freeze anything from what I know. I talked to them in late spring. Frank Rubino had said they did not freeze anything, so they didn't lose any spring services or anything like that. So those are my concerns, and unfortunately there's no one here to ask that question. My question is, do we indeed have a bare bones budget if you can come up with $800,000? Or are there that many economies that happen during the year? I mean, that's $800,000 in a budget, to come up with. So those are professional development. They only spent probably 25 to 30% of professional development money for the year. Salaries type things like that. And those are my concerns. Are they bare bones? Are they padded because they're worried they're not going to get the money? And I want to assure them that they are. It's a state statute. They are allowed that money. So those were my concerns going forward.
Okay. Thoughts? Further discussion?
A couple quick questions just to kind of clarify it also. Ms. Traub, if I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, is it 800,000 basically the 570 plus the 250 that was already allocated, using rough numbers?
I did the opposite. The 1.1 million, which their memo said they were over, they had a shortfall of 1.1 million and they're out of district. They received 250,000 from us, from the contingency, and then they're asking for 25 to 26,000. And I'm saying rough numbers, it came out.
Okay.
It was somewhere around, $750,000 or so that they had, and they were able to find that within their budget to cover the balance of it.
Okay. I guess if I can just have a comment, maybe from my perspective and the Board of Finance, is that, those are all, I think, valid concerns probably to bring up with the Board of Education and taking a look at how they're going through the whole budget process. I know that we've already given them the impression, rightfully so, that to the extent that these issues do come up with regard to the excess cost grant reimbursements and exactly what their outlays are, that we are going to, I think, step forward and make sure that those funds do flow back to them. So I'd be in favor of making sure that that's the case here, but maybe for going forward in the future and taking a look at the overall budget to make sure that at least what they're presenting to us and the concerns over where those different items are being saved within the Board of Education budget might come up, in the dealings with the liaison with the Board of Education, Board of Finance. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I tend to agree. There's never been a time where the city's denied the request for those monies. So it just seems counterintuitive for them to think that it would, if that was the case, obviously not having anybody here. And that flow through is automatic almost, it's almost like
It has to be.
Well, we fund, city taxpayers fund 40–50% of it, so by one way or the other, it's going to them, through us. It's not like the state's giving over 100% of what we already fund, what they already fund,
And my other concern, just to piggyback that, my other concern is I did, in trying to open that line of communication, which was a problem in the past, I tried to email Mr. Rubino quite a few times to tell him what I thought the concerns were going to be. And I did ask the question about the capital projects, and I was told we discussed it. In their benefit, I could not make the budget committee meeting last week, so I was looking for feedback after the meeting, and the answer I got was, well, we discussed it. So I didn't get an answer. I can't tell you what happened with capital projects. I don't know. I can't tell you what the answer is on the staff savings, the salary savings, because I did not get an answer. So I am still communicating. I'm trying to ask the questions ahead of time to prepare them so that they know, and still not getting any feedback. So I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Understand.
Bruce was a part of the construction of that budget, the original budget. So in that way, I feel that the Board of Finance at that time did have a handle on what was included in that budget. So I would look at it that way. In terms of this request, this is a separate request from the original request for the $250,000. So I do agree that it should be coming, that the Board of Ed should have authorized the superintendent to request this money, this additional money. It would have been my assumption if I had received this letter that the Board of Ed knew and had authorized Dr. O'Brien to request the additional funds from the city.
So, in a matter of processes, chicken egg type thing, do we feel comfortable enough to vote on it today, knowing that only the Board of Finance or the Board of Ed budget committees approved it and awaiting full board approval? That's kind of a comfort.
And I think I did clarify to Mr. Rubino, because he said, being new, he was unsure of the process, and I did clarify, I believe, in the past, that it did go from the Budget Committee of recommendation to the board, and that the board just authorized, in other words, they approved the amount and they authorized the superintendent's office to draft the letter to send to us. So I did communicate that process, so now he knows it. They weren't familiar with it. There were other people on the board, though, who were familiar with that process, so I was concerned about that. I don't know. Holding it up for another Board of Finance meeting, I don't know, but at the same point, as far, from the best of my knowledge that I know, it did not go to the Board of Ed yet. They do have an agenda item tomorrow night, but the agenda item tomorrow night is to discuss coming forward to the city regarding this year's overage already. So I'm not sure if that letter that we're looking at now is on the agenda for tomorrow night.
Well, I mean, typically, I would think, Board of Finance should probably be the final say on it. I mean, would it be appropriate in this case to amend it to say pending approval by the Board of Education? So, we let them know that they need to approve that.
I would support that. It's hard coming from a Board of Ed background to have $25,000, $26,000 be in question when I know that in a little while on another agenda item I'm going to approve a lot of transfers, and some of them are going to be from contingency, and the Board of Ed does not have a contingency. So the amount, it's not the amount of money, it's more a process and a procedure, and by amending the motion to say pending approval by the Board of Ed.
This year they did have a contingency, and they did.
They used that
yeah.
too.
But this upcoming year they don't. So we'll see.
Right.
All right. So the people who made
Just one last comment also is just that the letter's dated August 15, 2008, so we're another month into it. And, had there been any questions by the Board of Education, it probably would have popped off our agenda, but it certainly seems that, at least implicitly they've received this notice, or they actually have received this notice, and maybe it's their understanding that we'd be going forward with it also. So with that in mind.
And maybe, are you going to go to the next meeting Monday?
I could attend tomorrow night's Board of Ed meeting, and I could just, I guess for the process of the Budget Committee to know going forward, and here again, understanding that committees change, boards change, so if there's an understanding between the process as a whole going forward, then any Budget Committee will know to go to the Board of Ed, will know to go to the Board of Finance. It'll be a process that'll be understood no matter who's in office, so we don't have those situations. Again, understanding back again that this money that comes from the state is their money by state statute. In their Budget Committee package last week, they did discuss that state statute. So the board is aware that that money comes in, it has to be allowed to be transferred directly to the Board of Ed. So that is not a question. Like you said, we're not questioning that. The money's there for them based on state statute. It's just the process. So it's fine.
Anything to add, Alex?
I'm not familiar with the state statute on that.
I could get a copy of that for everyone here, just so they have a copy of it also.
Hasn't the Board of Ed already expended those funds on out-of-district costs?
Absolutely.
So they found their efficiencies within the general fund portion of their budget.
Yeah, and I think that's the argument, unfortunately, being on the other side, as Patsy said, it's that tug of war. You know that going into any year that your out-of-district costs are always going to be larger than what you budgeted. It's been happening historically for 5-6 years now. The question is, they don't feel comfortable budgeting for what they don't know. They know they have X number of students at the new year, that's what they budget for. So yes, there's going to be that. And the state will basically come back, and out of whatever it was that their overage was, the state did give them an additional $570,000, which they are by state statute allowed to transfer right into their income to offset their additional expenditures. And I can get you everyone the state statute on that. So I want to be clear on that they can ask for that and it immediately can go through. However, there's also this case that the Board of Ed has found the money within their budget. So there's a little bit of question there as to what the best way for this to work. If they know that their overage is going to be X number of dollars, is this something they can request earlier in the year? I think I found a letter from the year before, or 2 years before, to the Board of Finance, and I believe that was approved very early in the spring. So the Board of Ed knew very early in the spring that the Board of Finance had already approved that transfer if they needed it. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's just a process if they know earlier. Again, I want to make sure that the Board of Ed, given their budget status, that they don't lose services, that they don't lose staff because of these out-of-district costs. However, there's other things in play. And to come up with $750,000 concerns me.
All right, so in terms of a process to add an additional, just simply say pending approval. I think we had a motion by Barley, second by Scoville. So if you just amend your motion to include.
Amend the motion so that it reads approval by the Board of Education.
Second. Okay, further discussion.
I will just make sure that I convey that tomorrow, so that if they don't have it in the agenda, they can throw it in during the budget committee comments.
Perfect. Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 4, vote to authorize the expenditure of up to $69,250 from financial management upgrade prior year encumbrances for services to be provided related to the tax collector forensic audit.
So moved.
Mrs. Traub,
Second.
Mr. Farley, discussion.
And just a question. This is the one, Alice, this is the one we talked about, moving the balance over to the general fund.
That's correct.
Is that something that we should do at this point in time, or just wait till?
I would rather wait just to make sure that any other activity that we've already committed has
Okay.
hit those encumbrances. I mean, they've all come in front of the boards, but sometimes the process isn't completed for a little bit down the pipe.
Yeah.
The funds that we provided for IT when he had to put in the phone system, it was something we had to do with the phone system. Not all of the invoicing or purchase orders have been issued against it yet. So I'd rather wait just a little bit, and then I'll come forward with the balance and let the board know how much it is that will be going back into the fund balance.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion. Mr. Zoll.
I apologize because I was not here at the last
That's right.
meeting. Would I be able to ask just for a quick review of this? Because as I went through some of the materials, I know they talk about in terms of the forensic audit. I just want to see what of the 3 different stages is included.
The only things that are included are the first 2 stages. As a matter of fact, the 3rd stage, which is the actual forensic part, is not included because we are assuming that we're not going to need it.
Okay.
So it'll be a request to come back to the board if in fact we do need it. But the first 2, as we had our meeting with UHY, our initial meeting to kind of narrow the scope. And to my understanding, the first things first is for them, UHY, to get a familiarization of some of the, I can't think of the word,
Processes and
processes that in controls that they follow on a daily basis. You get to understand what they do, how they do it, and that's kind of first things first. And once he does that, then looking back to, I think, 2001, 2000, we're going to start just doing some random sampling in terms of, payments and cash flow, any of the things that are information that we have backed up.
Now, is this just to better inform us for, future contracts with tax collectors in the city, essentially? I mean, I know
Right
from a
now-
collection standpoint, we haven't had any issues at all.
Right. Right now, that's kind of the end goal. We foresee using this information as an opportunity for us to have a better idea as to what happens in the tax office in the city of Torrington for purposes of, in 2011, 2012. We have this information to, if we're going to go forward with another private tax collector, to write a better contract, to put a better RFP together, that type of thing. Or if in fact it becomes clear that public tax collection's the way to go, then it gives us an idea of how to run it, how it gets run, what controls are necessary. So, it's almost like a baseline. And then the forensic piece is kind of ancillary only if we in fact need it, but we don't intend that.
That's not going to, I know it comes up here in the talk in terms of the forensic audit, but that really isn't.
That's kind of what we read it as,
Okay.
just, as it's gotten thrown around. We didn't know really what to call it, but
Okay, thank you.
no problem. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 5, vote to authorize the reallocation of prior and current year capital funding as identified with Superintendent of Parks and Recreation and Comptroller's Note in 91008.
Move it.
Mr. Farley?
Second.
Mrs. Traub. Discussion, this is Brett again. Any questions, discussion?
So by reallocating, we're saying that right now it's in like a lump sum budget for park capital improvements, is that? Where is it right now, I guess?
There's the accounts, based on the memo, account number 1 and account number 2 is what we're looking to reallocate. One for roughly $11,341, another one $77,783. Those are within capital funds for projects that have since been completed or not started for various reasons as far as reprioritizing how we want to go about completing some of these projects our department has that we feel pose a more immediate need to address. So there are existing funds that were from prior year budgets, as well as $55,000 that was authorized through the current fiscal year budget. Originally it was requested at $110,000, and that was cut in half, I believe, to $55,000. So we're looking to take these funds, reallocate them to be able to develop a list of priority projects that our department needs to complete. In doing so, we've developed a subcommittee with 2 members of our Parks and Recreation Committee, and also myself and Jerry Roulette to take a look at these projects, put an action plan in place, and work with the commission and our department to complete the projects.
Thank you. Further discussion. Ms. Schrock.
Just so I can clarify, and I don't have it with me, but I was looking at it. All of these small ones that you have for all the different parks in Torrington, that there's Dollar Center, all of those were not done? It looked like they were all zero expended.
There were a few, I believe was 07, 08. Some of those funds were expended. I don't know. I believe that same year we started with 110 as well. So
I believe it was 115,000 that year. What had happened was because of the fact that we've had turnover. Projects went on hold and weren't completed, and at the time within the budget process it was identified that this money was still available for projects, and I made the mayor and the public works director more comfortable with the fact that they would actually be able to reduce their capital budget within the 08-09 year with these funds per prior year being reappropriated so that they could use it for the projects that they were able to prioritize within their action plan.
And I apologize, I do have June's here, and it appears as most of these that we're talking about, Oak Avenue Band and all those, the money was not expended. So what you're saying is you're going to commit to using that money to do those projects?
Yeah, so, again, we're trying to develop, we have an action plan in place that we're working with our commission to work on addressing these projects. One thing I'd like to note in the 07-08 budget, when those funds were distributed across the board, some of those projects included, for instance, updating park signage throughout the city, so certain funds were put to each of the parks. We're looking at taking that as a project as a whole to update our signage, and that will be part of our new plan. So we feel by pooling these funds together we can address those high priority need projects.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
This is just a rough draft because it essentially has not gone through Park and Rec for final approval. They just need the opportunity to have the money so they can start prioritizing a long list. From what I understand, with capital projects haven't been done.
Just keeping in mind that I know I've heard and read things in the paper, keeping in mind that a lot of these small parks in town, they say that they're being neglected, the parents don't want to bring the children there, so I just want to make sure that people understand that it's not gone away, that you're just trying to work on a better overall plan to get them addressed.
Further discussion, Ms. Pesky.
How far back would money still be available? It says capital funds 06-07 and prior.
Mm-hmm. There were capital monies. Well, you can see that there's a small amount remaining from the 02 year of $300, and then 05 going forward.
I guess I don't understand why that money is allowed to.
If it's for ongoing projects, we can encumber the funds for as long as we need to in order for the projects to be completed, and these are capital projects.
And so because it's a capital project of some sort, not the original.
That's why we're coming back in front of the board and asking for the reappropriation.
Yeah, I just when I vote, I just want to make sure I don't have a conflict here, if you could help me. One of the items of our business plans on bidding on are the windows for the Christmas village, and it appears to me as though the original amount was $20,000. You're leaving $14,000 open, and the rest of it is disappearing. I don't see where is it being reallocated?
No.
It would be on your spreadsheet.
In the existing, there actually is a project that we're working on with an encumbered amount of $6,000, and then the $14,000 will be used for Christmas Village for projects that through our commission we determine that we're going to proceed with. There's several things that we're looking at addressing at Christmas Village. One being some masonry work that we have a vendor on board to do, but also some electrical work and windows, as you mentioned. Depending on how much of that work we can achieve with the funds we have, we'll proceed with those projects.
I guess my question is, I see it listed as an open purchase order, but I don't see it listed on the reallocation.
It's a purchase order, I believe, it was to the city of Torrington, the $14,000. It's not a direct purchase order to a vendor. I don't know if it was purchase ordered, originally to a vendor that, the project didn't get done, but is that correct, Alice?
No, what it is at year end, if there is a project ongoing, but they have not been able to come up with a vendor yet, the purchase orders are issued to the city of Torrington, and then the vendors are selected, and the purchase order is reduced by that amount for that specific vendor. So, I think what the point being here is that you want the $20,000 to remain available for Christmas Village.
Correct.
That's not in the reallocation.
It's not. That was
The
so
11,000,
I can vote on the
right.
reallocation. It won't be a.
That stays in the remain open, whereas the reallocation.
Oh, that was the question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't ask it right.
Yeah, well, all right, so I understand now. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Rule 6, vote to authorize the final budget transfers for fiscal year 7/107, 6/30/08. Thanks, Brett, for the comptroller's memo dated 9/10/2000.
So moved.
Mr. Scoville.
Second.
Mr. Zeller. Discussion.
I have one correction, I believe, before we start. On the last page of transfers, Alice, if you want to look at it, the fourth one from the bottom is from contingency to industrial park.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it's supposed to be .0041,
Okay.
just in case, I don't know if that.
Well, it's a distinct possibility for a while.
Well, I did go through each one, so.
I did too, but obviously
Well, I have to do it, I just figured, just in case these go through, I don't
No,
want to say we approved it to the wrong one.
That's
so
fine, I appreciate
was
that.
Do you have the total amount that came out of contingency?
I don't have the total amount. It was approximately 60,000.
Okay, I had 60, almost 64. I
Right.
didn't know if that was.
It was approximately, that's right. Majority of it being for the recreation department. Actually, most of it was recreation.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have 7, vote to authorize payment of $8,100 from sanitary sewer capital improvement account. That to Wright Pierce for invoice 58669 for engineering services related to the Felicity Lane Gulf Stream sewer crossing. Mr. Farley.
Second.
Mr. Zeller. Discussion.
How is our sanitary sewer capital improvement fund, where are we at?
There's approximately, I think, I actually printed it out because I knew you had a question. Did I bring the printout? I don't know. I think it's about 2 million.
Oh, it is?
Let's see, 490. Yep, 2,060,915.16.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8, vote to authorize the payment of $164,160.95 from Sanitary Sewer Improvement 490 to Hemlock Construction Company for requisitions 1 and 2 for work completed on the sanitary sewer project, Charles Street Relief Line at Winthrop Street.
So moved.
Mr. Scobel,
Second.
Mr. Zeller, discussion. Hearing none.
Actually, I do have a comment. I don't know, it's not pertaining to this requisition, but my concern is that they are doing work on Winthrop Street. They are looking for problems they're having with the sewer, and I just want to make sure that we're not just going to do a patch-up job on the sewer portions that are broken, and then mill it, pave it, and then a year from now we have to go back in. So it's, you know, as far as, you know, putting a few dollars in now and then having to do it again next year, or making sure we go through that, you know, to replace it.
Yeah, I really believe that this is a part of the ongoing capital. I don't think it's a, you know, they saw a break and they went and fixed it. You know, I think they're really trying to improve the lines for, you know, long term. But what I can do is have Ray and Jerry come next meeting and kind of give you an idea of what they're looking for long term, because they have it pretty well detailed as to, you know, the plan going forward in terms of capital upgrades to lines, you know, essentially reducing seepage into the line of stormwater, which can cause issues at the plant. But I'll have them come. Further discussion.
Do we have to vote to add this item to the agenda in the first place? Since it wasn't on the agenda that we received it at home, so I don't know if that was posted that way.
As long as it was within a certain amount of time, 24 hours, then
Is
you're...
there another one? I don't believe so.
Yeah, there
Is
was...
there an extra one?
This item was not on our agenda.
Right, 160.
Or that,
Oh, the hemlock.
the hemlock,
Oh, wait a
right?
minute,
Yeah.
it should have been a section A.
What was that coming out of?
Sanitary sewer,
Yep.
cap improvement, yeah.
No, you're right then. Thank you. Wait, my hemlock is here.
That was there.
Yeah, we didn't have it on the original agenda. Did Ray add it after the fact? To the council agenda last night, did he add it after the fact?
Do you want the original? Right.
Oh, do you have 9 items there?
And the original was
This is
8.
the original. That's why I was looking at yours, because I don't have that.
9 items here.
This is the original.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
9.
Yeah.
The hemlock. Right?
No, but the question was, should we have done a section B?
Yes,
So we just add to...
No, because it was more than 24 hours.
Right,
in
okay.
advance.
That's, yeah, and that's the...
It was more than 24 hours in advance when I changed it.
Okay.
So if you don't feel comfortable, you can
No,
table it, but by
It's not that I
process...
don't feel comfortable, I just wondered if we needed to vote to add it to the agenda, since it wasn't on the agenda
Like
that
you'll,
we had.
right, what you'll see in certain circumstances is a section B added, and that's, you know, if like today, Ray Drew came down, he's like, oh, we gotta get this on the board finance agenda. Like last time, you know, we had to come out, but whereas this, they found out, you know, what, a couple days ago.
And it was posted downstairs, so.
Okay.
And so to clarify that the ruling is it's
Fine.
posted
Yep.
prior to 24 hours
Yep.
to the public, then we, okay.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 9, vote to consider business by mayor and members of the Board of Finance.
Move it.
Mr. Zell?
Second.
To Mr. Farley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mrs. Pesky, anything to add? Mr. Farley?
I was just, surprised, I expected to see the deputy fire chief's request this month. If he was here, he showed up last month.
Yeah, we had this meeting with him yesterday, or Ernestine did,
Okay.
and they'll be coming back soon to process errors. Any further? That's it. Just go.
Nothing, thank you. Just trying to...
Will we get adjusted year-end financials, or we just assume?
I certainly can provide those to you if you'd like them, yes.
you know, after all the budget transfers. That would be wonderful.
You got it.
Mr. Zeller?
Nothing right now, thanks.
I have nothing to add. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Mrs. Traub, second by Mr. Zeller. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.